and welcome to Building Teams Apps that Bring Value Quickly Through Low-Code. My name is April Dunham and I'm a Senior Cloud Advocate here at Microsoft. Today we're going to be talking about how we can leverage low-code tools to accelerate our Teams application development. Teams has over 145 million active users, which makes it a great place to host our apps. We're going to be showing some of the low-code technologies available to us to build apps within Teams, as well as some of the code-first integrations, specifically how we can integrate with backend APIs through Azure API Management. Before we dive into some of the demos, let's take a look at the Teams landscape. Teams is a platform that facilitates collaboration and communication. And there are multiple things that we can do when it comes to building apps on top of Teams. When we build these apps, we can take a code-first approach, a low-code approach, or even a hybrid of both. For example, if you have a single-page web application that you've already built, you can easily integrate that within Microsoft Teams through a tab using a code-first approach. And the same goes for bots as well. We can create messaging extensions to look up information from your app in a conversation, or even post adaptive cards to gather inputs from users. We can also have in-meeting app experiences and incorporate outgoing webhooks to receive commands. And of course, we can integrate with some of the Microsoft Cloud, including pulling information and writing information to Microsoft Graph, using all of the Microsoft Office suite, and incorporating with the Power Platform to build low-code applications within Teams. And it's this integration with the Power Platform that really allows us to amplify our developer velocity through building Teams apps with low-code. So in addition to being a full code application platform, Teams is also a complete low-code application platform as well. Teams gives us a centralized place where we can discover and use our applications, bots, data, and automation. And through Dataverse for Teams, which gives us the Power Platform low-code suite of tools to build applications within Teams, we have a complete low-code suite to build apps. And this includes Power Apps for building our front-end experiences, Power Virtual Agents for building bots, Power BI for dashboard reporting and analytics, and Power Automate for those workflow automation scenarios. And through Dataverse for Teams, we get access to Microsoft Dataverse for Teams tables. This gives us a relational and secure database to store our data. Now that we have a good understanding of what tools are available to us for building low-code solutions on top of Teams, let's take a look at a demo. We're going to show, using Dataverse for Teams, how we can build an asset refresh request system from scratch. So for this scenario, let's assume that you already have a RESTful asset management service built, but users are requesting a way that they can have a self-service for requesting refreshes for their assets. This is a great fit for Dataverse for Teams. Let's start by showing how we can create the front end for the asset refresh request. We're going to do that using Power Apps. So let's jump over to the demo. To build this asset refresh request application, we're going to use Power Apps. If we go into Teams and click on the Apps tab in the left rail, we can do a search here for Power Apps. We can click on the Power Apps application for Teams, and you'll click Add if you haven't already added this application before, or Open if you've already installed it. Here on the home screen, we can explore all the applications that we built in Dataverse for Teams. And if we scroll down, you can see we can even take advantage of some pre-built templates that we can use to get started. These templates are plug and play and ready to use with the click of a button. You can use these for issue reporting, inspection, bulletins, and a variety of different use cases. But for our asset refresh app, we want to create a new application from scratch. So we're going to select the New App button here. And we'll select the team that we want to add this in. So this is an asset refresh for our devices, so we're going to add that to the IT team. We're going to click Create. We'll give our application a name and click Save. And we'll see there are two ways that we can get started building an application. We can start with our data or with a layout. Now for this app, I actually need to build a table or somewhere where we can store these requests for asset refreshes. So I'm actually going to do the Start with Data option. And I'm going to use this option here to create a new table. This will allow me to create a Dataverse for Teams table to store these refresh requests. Now all I have to do is name my table and click Create. Now using the modern table builder experience, I can build out my columns. I get a default column for name, which I might use for my asset name. I can add new columns by clicking on the plus button, giving the column a name. So I might have a requested by column. I'll leave that as a text option. And maybe I'll have requested by email. And for the data type for that, if I click on the dropdown, I'll choose email as the option. And we might also have the requested date, which we can use the date column type. And then maybe device requested, which would be the device that they want to replace their current device with. We'll leave it at that for now and click Close. And you'll see that this is actually going to build an application for us based off of this data. So on the left-hand side, we have a list of all of the different asset refresh requests. And on the right-hand side, we have a form to view the data and to add a new request. So I could actually click on the Save button here, and then the built-in Publish to Teams option, and click Next. And this will go out and add this into Teams for me so that people can start using it. So for this case, maybe I want to add this as a tab into a Teams channel. So I can click on the plus button, maybe to add it to the General tab, and save and close. Now, if I go to the General tab in our IT team, I see a new tab for Asset Refresh, which is our brand new Dataverse for Teams application that we built in Power Apps. I can add a new record, fill in some information, click on the check mark, and that will add that to our database. Now on the left-hand side, I see the new record. Now we just saw how quickly we can use Dataverse for Teams and the Power Apps application to build an asset refresh request. But what if we want to take that a step further and integrate with a backend API and a RESTful service that we already have, maybe to look up an individual employee's assets? Well, we can do that through our connector model. One of the most powerful things about the Power Platform is its connector model. These connectors are wrappers around APIs, which allow the Power Platform to read and write data to different first and third-party services. There are over 600 different connectors in the Power Platform right now, but we also have the ability to create what's called a custom connector. And these custom connectors give us a way to integrate with our internal APIs. And these connectors work for any RESTful API that you have. And the beauty of this is you build the connector once and you can use that within Power Automate, Power Apps, and Power Virtual Agents. Now, when we're talking about building apps within Teams though, one of the best ways that we can integrate with our APIs is if we're hosting those APIs in Azure API Management. Now, Azure API Management has many benefits, giving you a centralized place to manage your APIs. And in addition to that, when working with the Power Platform, it gives us an easy way to build and deploy those connectors to integrate within Azure API Management. This allows the code-first developer to build the API, publish to APIM, and it gives the rest of the organization the power to consume that information in their apps, bots, and flows. These Azure API Management connectors are automatically available in the Dataverse for Teams Power Apps experience, and no additional licensing is required to use it. So let's see how this integration works. We're going to open up the Azure portal and go to API Management. We'll see here in API Management, we have our Asset Management API. If we click on that API, you'll see built-in integration for Power Platform. We can click on the Power Platform tab on the left-hand side and select the Create a Connector option. We simply select the API that we want to create a connector to, select the Power Platform environment that we want to create this connector in, and you see when we click on that drop-down, we have the Dataverse for Teams environment. So we created our asset management application in our IT team. So that's where we want to deploy this connector. Now all we have to do is click Create, and this will go do all of the hard work for us of creating that Power Platform connector. And then all the end user has to do is consume that in their application or their bot or their flow. Now to use our API in our Power App that we were building, all we have to do is click on the cylinder icon for our Data Sources tab on the left-hand side, select Add Data, and do a search for Asset Management API, which was the API that we exported from Azure API Management. Now if we select that, we can paste in our subscription key and click Connect. Now we see that API as a data source in the tab, so now we can start using it. To integrate our API with the app that we've already built, let's see how we can take this name field, which is just a single line of text field, and make it dynamic to pull in the associated assets with the individual making the refresh request. Now to do that, we're going to go into this item or this card inside of Power Apps, and we're going to unlock it. Now that the card is unlocked, we can select within it and go to Insert, and we'll add another vertical gallery. So we'll position the gallery and kind of shrink it down a bit to fit within this card. Now we're going to call our API from this gallery to return the list of assets assigned to the current logged in user. To do that, we're going to select the gallery and we're going to go to its items property. Here we can make a direct call to our API by typing in the name of our API. In my API, I have a method called getAssetAssignment, and I can pass in an email address. And you'll see that Power Apps has built-in IntelliSense, so I can select the email and I can type in my formula. So I can actually use PowerFX here, the formula language for Power Apps, and use its built-in user function and do user.email to pass in the current logged in user's email into my property here. Now I'll just do a .asset to get the details about the current assets, and I'll make some tweaks to my gallery. So I'll go into this label here and I'm going to change that to pull information from my API. So I'll point this to asset dot, and I want to get the manufacturer. And you see as I change this, information starts to be filled out. And then for this second property, I'm going to change that to asset dot model. Now I don't have any pictures in my API, so I'm going to delete this picture control. Now, instead of relying on the user to hard code in the name of the device, it's dynamically looking up from our API and pulling that into the app. I can do the same thing for our device request field. I can add in a separate gallery here, and we'll point this to a separate method on my API called getAsset. And this method just returns a list of all available assets. So we'll change our mappings again in the gallery to pull the manufacturer and the model. So now when the user is filling out the asset refresh request, we'll be sure that they're pulling from the list of assets available in our backend API. Now we're just going to hide the single line of text boxes by changing the visibility property to false on each of those. This will just make sure that the user is using the drop-down selection of items instead. All right, so we've integrated with our API and API management. We're going to save and republish and give this a test. If we go back to our IT team and open up our asset refresh application again, we should see some of the changes. If we select add a new record, we'll see on the name field, we have the list of filtered assets for the current logged in user. So I can select my Microsoft Surface Laptop 2 that I want to upgrade, fill in the requested by information and the requested by email and the date. And then in the device request, this is getting the other method from our API where it's showing all of the different devices that we can upgrade to. So I might want to take my Surface Laptop 2 and upgrade it to a Surface Laptop Studio. So this is all integrating with our API through Azure API Management and dynamically pulling in our assets. So if I click the check mark, this will go and add that into our Dataverse database. So far, we've leveraged Power Apps to create the front end to intake our asset refresh request and integrated that with our backend API. Now let's take a look at how we can complete the cycle here and allow for approvals of these asset refresh requests. To do that, we can leverage Power Automate, the workflow engine of the Power Platform. To create this workflow, we're going to open up the Power Automate application in Microsoft 365 by clicking on the App Launcher and selecting Power Automate. From here, we can go to My Flows in the left-hand side, select New Flow and Automated Cloud Flow. Earlier, we set up a Microsoft Dataverse for Teams table to store our asset refresh request. So what we want to have happen is when a new item is added to that Dataverse for Teams table, we want this flow to kick off and ask for approval. The thing that kicks off a flow is called a trigger. So here we want to search for Dataverse, and you see we have a trigger for when a row is added, modified, or deleted in Dataverse. So we'll give our flow a name, Asset Refresh Approval, select that trigger, and click Create. For this trigger, we need to choose what change type we're trying to key off of. So for us, it's Create. Then we'll choose the table name we're looking at, which is our Asset Refresh Request. And finally, the scope. Now we want to be able to send an adaptive card to Microsoft Teams to collect a yes or no response of whether this asset refresh is approved. There are a couple steps we need to do to get that. So we're going to select Add New Step and first search for approval. Power Automate has a built-in approval engine in it. So we can select the Create an Approval action to initiate the creation of our approval. We have different approval types that we can have, whether everyone must approve if you have multiple approvers, or first to respond, as well as the ability to add custom responses. I'm going to select the first to respond option. Now that will give us some additional information we have to fill out. We'll give our approval a title, and we can choose who to assign it to. This can be dynamic from our data source, or we can hard code it. For testing purposes, I'll hard code it to myself. We can pass in item links, descriptions, and additional details. So I can say, please approve this request. And we can pull in information about the request from our Dataverse table. So I could put in who requested it, and the name of the item that they want to refresh, and the email of who requested it. Now that our approval is created, we need to be able to send that to Microsoft Teams. So we'll add a new step, and we'll select this Teams connector. One of the options that you'll see here is Post Adaptive Card and Wait for Response. We can select that, and we can choose where to post this adaptive card. I want to post it to an individual user as the Flowbot. The Flowbot is a mechanism for interacting with users through Power Automate in Teams. Now in the message field, this is where we can pass in the adaptive card which this approval action above produced for us. So you see we have this Teams adaptive card property that we can pass in to our message. Now we just define the recipient again, and this will be sent in Teams as an adaptive card to that user. Now one more step here is we need to be able to wait for the response. So we'll add a new step, search for approval again, and do the wait for an approval. We need to pass in the ID of the approval that we're waiting for, which will map to the ID of our create an approval action. Now the last piece of this workflow is we want to notify the requester of the outcome of the request. So we're going to add one more new step, and we'll select Microsoft Teams again, and we'll post a message in a chat or channel. We'll use the Flowbot again, and we'll post in a chat with the Flowbot. For the recipient this time, we'll use our dynamic content, and we'll search for the requested by and send it to the requested by email from our Dataverse table. Now for the message, we'll just hard code in a message here. We'll say your asset refresh request was, and we can dynamically pull in the outcome. So one of the fields you'll notice here is outcome. We'll paste that in, and that will put in either the approve or reject status. And then we can put in any details below. Now we can just click save, and this flow is ready to test. So we'll go back into Teams, we'll go into our asset refresh application and create a new asset refresh request. I'll select my laptop again, fill out my information. This time I'll try to upgrade to the Surface Studio, and we'll submit. This will add the new record into Dataverse, and I should see an alert here in a second pop up in Teams. Now I can see I have an alert in my activity in Teams. If I click that, I can see the adaptive card request coming through for the approvals engine in Power Automate. I can see all the details that were included, like who requested it, their email, and what device they want to refresh. I'm able to leave comments like refresh approved and select the approve button to keep the process going. Now this should kick off the rest of our process, which will then notify the user who requested it of the outcome of their approval. Now notice when I approved that, it took me to the built-in approvals app inside of Microsoft Teams. So Microsoft Teams is really a one-stop shop where we can approve or reject items through adaptive cards and manage all of the approvals that we've sent and received. And here in the activity, we have the final notification, final status approved, letting the end user know that their request for an asset refresh was approved. Now, if we stop and take a look at what we've created and bring it all full circle here, in a matter of minutes, we were able to build a backend table in Microsoft Dataverse for Teams to store our asset refresh request. We built a front end in the Power Apps application for Teams to submit those requests. We even integrated with our backend service through Azure API Management to pull in the database of our assets. And we completed the process by adding in a Power Automate flow to help facilitate the approval of these asset requests and notify the users of the outcome. All this done using a Fusion development approach in a matter of minutes with the low-code tools that Microsoft Teams offers with Dataverse for Teams. Now, before I let you go, there are a few things that I want to share with you to help you get started with building low-code applications on Teams. The first is to explore the Dataverse for Teams Learn Path we have. This Learn Path walks you through all the basics of getting started with Dataverse for Teams. Next is to try out our Microsoft Dataverse for Teams in-a-day training exercises. This in-a-day training has great exercises to walk you through the ins and outs of building low-code solutions in Teams. If you want to learn more about the code-first integrations with the Power Platform and how you can work within Fusion Teams to build hybrid solutions, check out our Fusion development approach to building Power Apps ebook. And of course, the best way to learn is to get hands-on, so go install those Power Platform applications for Teams and try it out. I really hope you enjoyed this session. Thank you so much for attending and enjoy the rest of Build.